Hello all, welcome back to Learning Partner. If you are new, please do subscribe. This is another channel where you can directly connect with me. We have around 1000 plus members already who are working. We take live coding sessions and everything. To just get notified about those sessions, please do join this group. Okay. So till now we have completed our basic topic, like what are the basic topics we have in Angular that are almost done. Now we are moving towards the scenario based topics, like how do we implement login page? And once we implement the login page, we have one more topic that is auth guard, right? So in this episode, we are going to see login page, how to implement login page, what is hardcode login, how do we validate user with API and auth guard also. That is simply guard. So in guard, there are multiple guards. So we are going to see canActivate guard. So this is the same project we are following from the first episode from Angular 19 tutorial. Now, let's say I want to implement login page over here. So what I need to do? When we talk about login page, now there are two types of application. One is admin application and another is website. So in website, we don't have to do much, but in admin application, our routing changes a little bit. So that's why I'm focusing on the admin application. Fine. So these are the structure we had. Now, whenever we have an admin application and we want to implement our login page, so we have to create two components. First, let's say login component and separate component to keep our navbar. And this we will call it as layout. And in this component, we will have our navbar also, and this will act as a parent component after login. Okay, so let's create two components first. Right click on component, open in a new terminal, ng generate component. First is login. Then second layout component we will create. Fine. So we have created two components. Now we need the template also. Or before, once we created the component, next thing we should be creating the routes. So let's go to approute.ts. Now, whenever we have admin kind of application, so our first route is our default route. So then second route will be our login. Then comma component will be login component. Now, if user is not means in the URL, we don't have anything. So by default, it should navigate to the login page like this. So redirect to, we are putting the login component route. After this, we need one more route where path will be again empty, but component will be our layout component. Fine. And now, what are the components which we are going to access after the login that need to be part of the children for this component route? So all the components which we are going to access after the login will be children of this layout component route. So let's remove. Oh my God, so many components are over here. Let's move that into children. Getting it? So this is your structure should be there for whenever you are creating an admin application and you want to implement login page now. So first default route will be there. Then your login route will be there. After that, one more route will be there with path empty. Here you can specify the name also, but not mandatory. Then for this route, your component will be a layout component. And all the component route which you are going to access after the login will be children of this route. Fine. So we have created component, then we have changed our routing a little bit. After that, if we let's try to access the application. If we don't have anything in the route, see login component is working. But here we can see navbar is also visible. If user is not logged in, navbar should not be visible now. So that's why currently our navbar is in app component. So we have to move this navbar to our layout component. As I said, once user is not logged in, app component will be parent component. But once user logged in, after that layout component will be our parent component. So that's why we are keeping our navbar into layout component. So now if you see, by default, we are just able to see the login component. Now we need a template for the login. So what we do, simply search HTML, CSS login page. And let's add code pen also after that. So we will get so many example and we can select from it. So which we can choose. Let's go with this. So let's click on it. Now these are the, so we need to copy from main, not from body. Okay. So let's copy. This is HTML part. We need to put it into our login HTML over here. Then we need the CSS also. So let's copy the CSS. And this CSS will go into our CSS file. Now let's just save and check if our login page is coming properly. See, same login page is coming, but I think here we have some extra space. Let's see why. Because of body or what? Let's try to remove it. Why we are getting this, or I think in app component we might have, yeah, because of this. So let's remove that. See, now whatever the login page we are able to see it over here, same login page we have implemented. If you know, if you have a strong experience on UI, you can design your, otherwise use the existing one. If you are in the practice mode, okay, don't waste time designing the UI. Fine. So by default, our login page is coming. Now, the first way is hardcode login. What is hardcode login? Let's say, because once you are appearing for the machine test run, not every company will provide you the API. They will ask you to just implement the login page. And if they are not providing the API, how you are going to validate the user? So that's where hardcode login will come. So hardcode login means, let me just close everything. Now in login component.ts, we have to create our object. So let's say user, or let's make it login object. Colon any is equal to curly bracket. Let's say username empty, password colon empty. Fine. Again, I'm not going with any and everything. I have already covered that or not. Let me check. I think I forgot. Interface. Yeah. So class and interface we have already covered, right? So I'm not creating class or interface just to save the time. I'm going with any. Fine. So we have created object. Now this object we need to bind to our form. We are going to use template form. So forms module we need to import. Then you can bind this object to our text box. Square bracket, round bracket, ng model equal to our login object dot username. Then same like that, we need to bind it password also. Over here, we will have password. Fine. Now on click of this login button, we have to call our function. So let's click event on login. Let's create this function. So here, as I said, hardcode login. So here we will simply check if this dot login object dot username equal to, let's say if user enter admin as a username and we need to validate username and the password also. Again, this dot login object dot password is equal to 1122. Okay. So this is hardcode login, means here only we are checking like what user has entered. And if user enter, we will show some, and after, let me just write the else block also. If user doesn't provide that admin and the username as admin and password as 1122, it will go to the else block. And here we will show alert wrong credential. Fine. But if user successfully login, we have to navigate to some page also. That we will do. First, we will check the else block, if else block is working or not. Let's add a debugger. Let's try now. Let's open the console. Now I'm passing the wrong password. Okay, something random I'm passing. On click of login, you see in username we don't have admin and password is also not the same. So it will go to the else block and it will show the warning. Fine. Now the right case. So if user is providing the correct credential, once user has properly validated, we need to navigate to some other page. We need to allow user to log in. So for that, once user is logged in, we will navigate to some page. Let's say admin page I'm navigating. Fine. So here from .ts we have to navigate. So how do we navigate from .ts? By using router service. So router is equal to inject. What we need to inject? Router service. This is same thing like how we used to create the dependency injection by using constructor. Same way like this. This we have got from Angular 16. So this dot router dot navigate by URL, and where we have to navigate? Admin. Fine. Let's just see if we are able to navigate to the admin page if user has provided proper login. So admin password 1122. On click of login, see, now we have got you admin over here, and in password also we have got admin. So our condition will satisfy, and it got to it. It is executing if block. On click of continue, you can see we are able to navigate to the admin. But we are able to navigate, but that admin page is not getting rendered. Why? Because in layout component, we have added a nav bar, right? But once you add the nav bar, after that, to load the activated route component, you need a router outlet as well. So here, router outlet also you need. But if you want to use router outlet in layout.component.ts, you need to import it also. So router outlet. Fine. Let's just save and check if we are able to see the layout admin page. See, got it? So we are able to log in. So this is what hardcode login is. What we did, we created login component and layout component. In login component, we have designed the form. Then in .ts, we have written this code. And navbar, we have moved to our layout component. And after navbar, we need the router outlet. In our app component, it will just be a router outlet. We don't have anything in the app component. So this is how you implement the login. Now, this is hardcode login. Means here only I'm checking username and password. What if I have to authenticate this credential from the API? Fine. So let's make use of my API now. So project API.zerasim.in. Here you need to go, and at the bottom, search it user app. At the bottom, you have a user app project. These are the APIs which we are going to use. So from here, let's create a user to validate. Let's say test at the rate, let's say dummy.com. Just I'm creating a user because this user we will use to log in. Full name test, sorry, and password 1234. Okay, let's execute. I'm creating a user from Swagger. Okay, execute. So you can see user has, oh, its email ID already exists. Let's say test11. Let's try. Yeah. So now you can see user is successfully created. So this API you will use to first create the user. Then this credential we will use to log in. So after this, you can see one more API is there, login. This is a post API. So here we need to pass credential, and I'm passing the wrong password now. If we execute, you see we are getting unauthorized, means user credentials wrong. So now if we pass the correct password 1234 and execute, we will get the detail. See? Okay. So now this API we need to integrate login. So what object we need? This email ID and password. So let's create this object just like this. Let's say API login obj colon any, like this. Let's empty this field. Fine. So we have created object which we need to pass to our API. Now this object we will bind it over here. Email ID and password. Fine. So now instead of this hardcode login, let me comment. Now here we need to do the API call integration. So here HTTP, again we need to implement inject, we need to inject HTTP client. So inject HTTP client. Fine. Then over here we will do the API call integration. This dot HTTP dot post. Our login API is the post. We need the URL. So let's get the URL. So this is our URL. Let's pass the URL over here as a first parameter. Second parameter, we need to pass the object. So this object, API login object, we need to pass it over here. Then we need the subscribe. So dot subscribe, round bracket, result, colon, any arrow function. If let me just close this. If API call is success, means user is properly validated, our subscribe will execute. If there is any error, so it will execute our error block. So like this, you need to add. And here we will show error message by using, let's say, credentials. And if user is successfully logged in, we have to navigate to the admin page. So this we will pass it over. And if user is successful, login is successful, we get the user ID. See, in response in data, we are getting the user ID. So this user ID, we will store it to the local storage or session storage, wherever you need. So before navigation, we will store the logged in data because we need to store the logged in user info somewhere. State item, from bracket, key name will be, let's say, 19 user, key name, then res.data, yes, data.user ID. Fine. Just add a debugger and let's validate this code. Here I'm adding debugger and here in error block also adding. Let's check and save. Let's navigate back to the login page. Now I'm just passing the wrong credential. Okay. Let's add a debugger. Yeah, it is already there. On click of login, you can see in the login object we got the data, but we are passing the wrong credential. Once I continue, see error block got executed. Means we didn't provide the proper credential, so wrong credential. Let's provide the correct credential. Let's get email ID from over here. Paste 11@dummy.com. Password 1234. Let's click on login. So now if you see over here, we have email ID and password. Once I continue, see now my subscribe got executed. And in result.data, we got the user ID also. Now, once we continue, we are able to log in, and in local storage, you see Angular 19, whatever the ID we get that we have stored. Got it? So this is the login with API. Now, let me instead of tutorial, now we will have a logout button over here. Now our navbar is in layout component. Let's go to layout component. Instead of that tutorial button, we will make it logout. Let's make it button. Now on click of logout, we need to do two things. First, we need to clear the local storage data, and we need to redirect back to the login page. Okay. Now, create this function. As I said, we need to do two things. First, we need to remove the local storage data. So remove item method. What key we need to remove? The same key, Angular 19 user. So this we will pass over here. Then again, we need to redirect back to the login page. Again, we need to navigate back to the login page. So again, we need to inject our router service. Check what we need to inject our router. Now, once we remove the local storage data, this router navigate by URL, and we have to navigate to the login again. Let's check this if we are able to log out. Fine. So in the local storage, you can see currently we have the data. If I click on log out, the data also got removed and we are again back to the login page. But if you see, we are currently log out. But let's say if I know the URL, now we are going towards our auth guard. So if we know the URL and if I directly pass, still I'm able to access the page. This should not happen, right? User is not logged in. Still I'm able to log in. See, in the local storage, we don't have any data. How do we know that user is logged in? Because once user is successfully logged in, we are storing the user ID into local storage. So if local storage doesn't have any value, means user is not logged in. Still, I'm able to access this page. So we can restrict that by using guard. So let's create the guard now. So our login is completed. Now we are going to the second topic, that is guard. So in app folder, I'm creating a folder guard. Now we have to create a guard. There are multiple guard. We are going to implement canActivate guards. Generate guard. The guard name I'm giving as auth. So it will ask you like which guard you need. So we have canActivate, can deactivate, can match. So we are going to go with canActivate. So you just need to press space, then it got activated and enter. You can see guard has been successfully created. Okay. Now let's write the code. So now in this guard function, we have to write the logic to check if user is logged in or not. Now again, the meaning of can activate. So can activate means before your route is getting activated, before that function, this function will execute. Means whenever you navigate from one component to another, first this function will execute. If it return true, then only that function, that particular route will load. Otherwise, we can redirect to login page. Fine. So here, if you see the login component, once user is successfully logged in, we are storing data into the local storage. Now this data, we have to read it over here. Constant logged data, local storage dot get item. We have to pass our key. So key name is this. This we will pass it over here. So if in this particular log data, we got the user, or if it is not null, means we have the data, means user is logged in. So we will return true. Else we need to navigate to the login page. So here we will use local variable, router. We can use inject. And what we need to inject? Router service. And then in else block, if user is not logged in, we will redirect to router dot navigate by URL, and we will redirect to login page. And since this function need return type is a boolean, so we will simply return false no array. Fine. So this is our basic implementation of checking if user is logged in or not. Now this guard we have to implement on the other routes. So let's go to over here. Now let's say admin. Over here I'm adding can activate colon. It will be array because on one route we can add multiple guard like this. Let's add the import also. So now you can see on the admin, I have just protected the admin route. Data binding is open. So let me show you how it behaves now. So currently in the local storage, we don't have any data. But if I try to access the admin route, let's add a debugger also in auth guard. Let's add a debugger over here. Once I navigate enter, my auth guard will execute. See, and here I'm checking if local storage has the data or not. Currently it is null. So it will go to the else block and we will redirect it to the login page. But if we try to access the data binding, on data binding, we haven't added the route. So this is open route. We can, without login also, we will be able to access. So see that guard didn't execute it. It directly load the page. Got it? So this is the guard implementation. Now, what are the routes? Normally, like layout component will have all the routes after the login. So we can, instead of adding it everywhere like this, just a minute. Instead of adding this on every route, what you can do, this same can activate guard, you can add it at the parent level. That is also fine. So now your all guards, all routes are protected. Let's try to see. I think currently we are logged in. Let's check the application. Yeah, currently we are not logged in. Now, if I try to access data binding, I will be still redirected to the login page. See, I got to the guard login. So this is how we create the login page and we protect our routes also. Without user logged in, user won't be able to access our route. Fine. So that's it. That's the end of our video. I hope this was clear to you. Now we are slowly moving towards some advanced concept in Angular as basic topics are done. So in this episode, we have implemented login functionality and the guard also. Fine. If you are new, please do like and subscribe, and please do join WhatsApp channel link also. There I'm taking live sessions, so you will get notified of the same. Thank you.